Okay, that should be working. It's blinding me, so it best be. Yeah, looks like it's working. A hairbrush might be a good idea in the morning, you know? I come on stream every morning and then think, what do I actually look like? I did not get it to work, no. It's broken. Restream bot is running, so it should show. So chatting both should show. Nope, doesn't even it doesn't even pick up YouTube chat in Restream. So I've got a Axel chat running, so I can at least see. Yeah, annoying. But Restream bot is not working at all. I bet if I paid, it'd work. Oh well. At least I can see it today. Emil, Rider being free is a godsend. Yes, Rider being free is going to at least open that door to a lot of new people. You know, hobbyists now get the benefit of all those tools that, you know, we get. I opened a project in Visual Studio yesterday and it took so long to open. Now, some of that's because I have GitHub Copilot installed in Visual Studio and the startup time was ridiculous. Some of it's because Visual Studio wasn't updated. So, but still, it just made me appreciate Rider just that little bit more. Okay. So at least I can see the YouTube chat, even if the YouTube chat can't interact in the same way. So we'll go with that today. And I'll continue to look for options for joining the chat streams. Okay. Today's title is not clickbaity, but it's something that's on my mind. Mojo and I were having a discussion last night, and obviously the benefit of having what it made me understand is the benefit of having other developers to discuss and verify ideas with is a very important thing. Being able, so I am not a very I'm not very visually imaginative in terms of I can't read something and kind of picture in my mind what it's doing. I can't watch a video of someone building a like giving abstract concepts of an architecture and necessarily take it all in and process it. So sometimes my understanding of things is wrong. And you know, I've avoided putting labels on this site on this application because it always makes me feel uncomfortable because it's down to your individual understanding of the pieces. And Mojo and I were talking last night, and he's like, "No, it's not a modular monolith because a modular monolith does it this way." And we kind of went through some of the examples, and it made me realize, okay, no, it's not a modular monolith; it's a distributed monolith. But then you find a lot of people be like, "Don't do distributed monoliths. Why don't you do distributed monoliths?" We don't do distributed monoliths because they're an absolute nightmare to manage as a team. As a solo developer, they do not fit, which, you know, I've said now it's getting big enough. This is actually kind of hard to juggle all the pieces, but it just doesn't. It doesn't work as well for a solo developer, and even as a team, it comes with its own set of challenges. So it's kind of like not microservices because microservices would be way more refined and smaller, but you know, it just made me realize that the things that I've listened to and read, I've misunderstood in some ways, maybe, or I'm not really taking from them what I will. But it's giving me time to reflect and look at some other stuff and see, do I really, what do I feel about this application is wrong? And if I am wrong, and this is a distributed monolith, if I am wrong, and this is a bad way to do it, especially as a solo developer, what can I change? So I could try and make it a modular monolith by basically taking these API layers and moving them up into a single application stack, so that these are the modules, and the monolith is the entry point, essentially, and the combining of all these things. From a design perspective, it would be possible. From a refactoring perspective, it would be a nightmare. I'm not saying I am. I'm just going through the whys. Morning, Dota, by the way. So, if it is a distributed monolith, can I pull it back to make it a modular monolith? Should I do that? Well, from a cost perspective, making it one application that is deployable would have benefits. However, all the events and stuff that I have built would now have that would have degraded value, and it would actually make it more complicated. And I think that what that would do is now to reverse it from the distributed into the modular would make it more. It would risk adding a lot of challenges. You can't use distributed data. You can't use different databases because of the way that you're going to have to get all the connections, all the repository work that it does. That either has to change, or you end up with one database. Well, you don't get rid of the thing is that the application layer, the view would be. I mean, technically, I could pull view out here. View would still be view. I'd still disconnect view from the application. Just all the APIs would be joined together. So it'd still look like this, essentially. It's just these projects would not be here, right? There'd be endpoint projects that would be used by a single entry point application. But again, it's the advantage of having another teammate to talk about the design with. Now, this wasn't Mojo saying, "Oh, you've done it wrong." This was Mojo sharing his understanding of modular monolith and the way that because he can understand, he can follow the videos and does watch the videos, whereas I am more, I will do it and figure out. So the reason I'm sharing it, and to be honest, once I'd gone through this stuff and I was reviewing it, I was not quite sure I wanted to stream today, because I'm like, have I just wasted a year of my life? But I took the time to review it. Like, I took the time to reflect on, what have I actually achieved in a year? Well, I've achieved an application that I am proud of, that does do the things that I ask it to do. It is built in a way that I have wanted to build an application. Would I do anything differently? No, I still don't think I'd build it as a monolith. I don't think I'd put all this together, because it is nightmarish when those things join together and you end up with, well, hold on, a task and a planning item, they're in the same kind of thing, so why can't I make them the same? Those things are much easier when everything's together, and the coupling can appear. And it's another reason why I wouldn't put this back to a modular monolith now, is because if I start to introduce those things and that coupling does appear, it's much harder to pull it apart again later if the system does need distributing. So I think I've learned a lot about architecture, about design along this path, and I'm not going to change it, but it does come with some payoffs, right? Some risks. If I go to make this an actual application the way I want to do it, I'm going to have to accept there is a great cost. So I'm going to have to run it as cheaply as possible, right? Which means that if I was to open it up tomorrow to the paying public, I would have to be running on a shoestring budget, which risks undermining the entire purpose of the application, right? But I would have to make sure that I keep the costs low while building the application. So it's another reason why the application has to be in a better place before it's even viable to the public. It will. It'll scale better, but it's immediate, and that's the point. The modular monolith, the idea of the modular monolith is you can build an application, and it looks like from some. I'll share the videos and stuff that kind of reviewed. So some articles and stuff. I'll put them. I'll put them in the Discord because there's a ton of stuff. But there's um there's by building a modular monolith, you can deploy the application as one application stack. And then as you realize that there's growth, you can then split out those services, is the idea. I think that would be harder, and it would be much harder to go back now than it would be to have started that path. But that being said, I also don't want to. I don't care about the cost. If I get to the point where this is a viable application, I think there's enough people who like the ideas of this that I could um, uh, there's one more video I found. So I'm going to put the links in the Discord in the Agile project management thing. But yeah, so we watched a few things, and it's just opened my eyes a little bit. But it's made me reflect. And what I decided in the end was I am going to proceed. I like the design. I understand now a little bit more about the risks. I'm not going to backtrack on that at all. And that's enough, right? Understanding the risks is enough. So, um, so yeah, but it's funny. The reason it's wrong, it's all wrong. Don't do this, right? I could have spent months and months and months trying to copy other people's architectures, trying to look at what they did and mimic it and do that. Or I could have written the software I did, understand it intimately, and be able to change it quickly. And I think I check all the right boxes for that. So it's why I'm not too concerned. Now having reflected, having thought about it, that it's just not, don't do this is easy to say. You've got hindsight. You've worked in teams. You've built applications. You've seen the pitfalls. It does make me worry that there's some major pitfalls coming my way that I'm not seeing. As the application's grown, there's a lot of different things that it needs to do that I'm starting to realize I need to sit down and plan out that now need some definition. Just beyond not thinking just 5 minutes ahead, but thinking 5 months ahead, and at least understanding what it looks like in its full form, when we can story point, when we can do this, when we need to notify people, how we're notifying people, what we're calculating, the changes, all the notification stuff I want to build. And I think as a monolith, all that stuff would be way harder. And the design of the application would dictate somewhat how those pieces worked, right? So I think as a distributed monolith, it's working well. But I'm going to try and avoid using terms because I'm sick and tired of people's expectations of like putting a name on something and then they expect it to be a certain way and it's not that way. It's because we all develop differently. We all have a different understanding. We all have different challenges. Yeah, it's so it's given me time to review, and I'm happy. And yeah. So anyway, yesterday on stream we were trying to get this detail card to work. Introduce panel layout for board. Why do you not work? Create dialogue. Consume sprint. There you go. Why didn't that load before? I don't know. Well, what I like about putting the names on the thing is you can start to answer the question, where does this class go? And I feel that that can be answered by, does this feel awful? I really do believe a little bit more now in when something feels wrong, you'll feel the tension in the actual thing. And maybe that's an experience thing. I don't know. Maybe that's just but if something starts to feel like, if I start to feel, if I start, well, actually, there's a prime one because it does already feel bad now. I've had time to think about it. Creating a project, tenant management, right? When I came to create a project, and I know that that's not a class, but it's more of a concept. When I came to create project, I was like, where does it fit? And it doesn't fit anywhere. So I was like, well, it's tenant related, so it goes in tenant management. And that felt bad. If I consider this nothing to do with the rest of the things in here, tenant management actually doesn't live in Liquid Sky at all. It lives as a concept in Control Tower. It's a back-end management piece. None of this is Liquid Sky, right? It is the piece that says tenant management is the piece that says the users, the tenants sign up, all those things go in tenant management because those are owned by Control Tower. It's an API that Liquid Sky can use because it's an entry point to the application. But beyond that, once tenant management receives the customer, receives a tenant, it publishes the information, and everyone else cares only what it looks like, right? Things that care, view cares about tenant. None of the systems really need to care about tenant because it's just an identifier to them. It's an association with data. Creating project, however, does not fit with tenant management because it's not tenant related. It's actually customer management, which is a component, or maybe customer administration, whatever it is. That is a component of Liquid Sky. And now that feels more natural to put those pieces together. Like that piece feels more natural. So I'm definitely of the opinion that once something starts to feel so separating author authentication, well, that and other concepts, yeah. Just to note that what you are talking about comes in a few flavors, e.g. body, gut, heart, intuition. Not everyone operates that way. For others, it's quite inconsistent where it feels right to do it a certain way the first time. Then the next time something else feels right. Yeah. Yeah. Little fly. No, I get it. I get that not everyone operates that way. And it just made me realize that it's. I was looking through some of the Jimmy Bogard video, and he had a lot of different concepts on the screen. I'm like, just show me code. Oh no, I was looking at a patterns video last night, and the patterns were just like, it was just all over the place, and I'm like, I didn't understand them, so I had to download code to understand them. So yeah, my way of understanding code is not the same way as everyone else's. I get it. Matt Bird's Quest. Hello, welcome in. How you doing? So right now I'm discussing the overall architecture of the application that I've been building. This is Liquid Sky. This is a code name Liquid Sky. This is a platform for project planning and management that I've been building over the last year. Similar to Jira in terms of the idea of tracking work. We have planning items, and we are able to create tasks for those planning items. The tasks have a backlog, and then we can go into sprint boards, and we can, no, we don't want to complete that one. We can drag cards around and generally work on planning. So the idea is that the planning aspect of the application is very much about figuring out what you want to do. And then this is an Angular front end and a .NET back end, using Kafka, Mass Transit, RabbitMQ, GraphQL. So yeah. So overall, it looks like that right this second. So in that case, for people who don't have a sense of what fields in alignment, the name patterns work very well for them. Some clearly defined structures that they can apply to personal realm, body, gut alignment, and intuition. Cool. Might be because I know the theory fairly well that I find it particularly helpful. Or maybe I just approach things more theoretical than most. I don't think I like the naming thing due to a lack of understanding my code, for example. Which I don't think looks nice and clean. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, so we were just actually starting off the stream with, and the title of the stream is a review of what this application is as an architectural alignment, because it is a distributed monolith. It is the closest thing. It's not microservices because the services are too heavy. But it's not a monolith. Nice. So, well, welcome in. I appreciate you joining us today. And if you do have any questions about what it is, any technology or anything related, I am at 7:24 a.m. Thank you very much for the follow. Appreciate it. I assume from good evening you are on the other side of the world. Oh, tonight you said. What are you working on tonight? No worries. Yeah, the stream is very much it. I'm coding, but I'm also open to discussion and questions about technology in general. I said I'm at 7:24 a.m. so I'm just starting my day. But you said no. My accent lies. I am on the east coast of the US. My accent is British. I am from the UK originally, but I am East Coast US. So, okay. So, yeah. So the stream is me developing the software, but there's also the opportunity to talk about it. If you have opinions or thoughts on what I'm doing, I'm open to discussion about this. As long as it's productive conversation, I have no issue with criticism. I have no issue with you're doing it wrong, as long as you can talk me through why I'm doing it wrong or why you think I'm doing it wrong, etc. So that's kind of what we were just starting with. You said other side, which for New Zealand, the antibodies are true. Well, if we're talking about this design, if we're talking about the UI UX, the UI UX is something that I want to find an expert in. We've been talking about that a lot because the UI UX, the front end is my weakest area. It is something that I am looking to try and find someone who can do a full review of the UX and the UI and kind of work on that. So, but that's going to be that's going to be an expensive process. So for right now, the UI is functional at best. Some context, I've been a software developer for over 20 years. So I'm not new to the software development thing. It's just I am not very good at the front end piece. So, and this is me experimenting and using techniques that I've not had the chance to use in um, in my day to day for a while. Tasmania, south of Australia. Nice. Yeah, we were just discussing that. Like my, I'm not, I'm not good at calling out a pattern. I'm not good at calling out a structure. I am more adept at being able to write code and knowing when it feels good and when it works and accepting that it works without actually applying it to a pattern. So sometimes I'll see a pattern, I'm like, oh yeah, I do that. Nice. Yes. 20 plus years of working in software. Only qualifications I have. So, okay, let's continue on with this. Um, so what did we do yesterday? So yesterday we were working on the tasks, getting the board to display the panel layout. I'm not sure why they didn't load the first time, but we'll come back around to that another time. So add detail display, read only, break screen up into a panel as with tasks and panel items. When clicking tasks, show details. I also made it last night so that when you click away, it removes that panel. Is it the most fluid design? Absolutely not. That's jarring and whatnot, but it does mean that when you switch to sprint, you don't see the card from the previous sprint displaying still. Nice. Hey, you should be proud of your accomplishments. That's the important thing, right? You have the right to do that. Okay, so yeah, but any and all interaction on the stream is obviously optional. Like you said, you know, if you want to ask questions, if you want to discuss the design, if you want to discuss design from the coding, etc., everything's okay as long as it stays on the topic, right, of software development in general. Is this through Blazor? No, Famizon. Welcome in. This is Angular. Yes, me too. I have not stopped loving to learn stuff, but I'm a practical learner. I'm not a book learner. Uh, for certain, I'm not academic. Is feature done? So what we started with. Hey Kenny, good morning. Or good day. How are you doing? So we've got the introduced panel layout for board. What we started with the stream was my reflection on design, on architecture in general, and whether I should change it, whether I could change it, whether I want to change it. So in the Discord, I've just put a bunch of links to stuff that I've reviewed the last. I won't say studied because it was not an extensive read or watch of those videos. It was a skim listen. But I've looked at the diagrams in there enough to understand that okay, this application is definitely not is not a modular monolith because it's not one big application. It is a distributed monolith, and I'm reasoning. I've kind of been weighing up: do I move it Do I change it? Because obviously from a obviously distribution of this application is going to be distribution. Deployment of this application is going to be on my mind very shortly. The intention is to get this into a place where you guys in the stream can use this application on my systems and test this if you want to and play with it and see what you like, see what you don't like, and we can kind of make that a feedback. The challenge to that is as a distributed system, it comes with a lot more complexity. It comes with a lot more requirements from a tooling perspective, from setting those things up and getting them deployed, Kubernetes, all those sorts of fun things. It becomes harder. If it was a monolith, it'd be deploying one application with one database. So, yeah, I'm torn in some respects, but in other respects, I'm not. I'm going to continue. I'm going to use the chance to learn the same way that I've said from the beginning. Everything I do, I'm happy to change. I'm happy to rip apart. I'm happy to learn. I'm happy to reflect, and I'm happy to change the ways I do things. Hi, Gilgamesh. How you doing? So, if I am doing it wrong, I will learn that, right? I will learn when I hit a point where I can't turn back and change things. And yeah, that's the beauty of doing a project like this, right? I can build this project. If it doesn't work, I can change things. Morning, Mojo. It's all your fault. So yeah. So we mark that as complete. We complete that sprint. And yes, I did make a sprint for one card. So the shout outs, Canny. Canny is not just how do you put it? A talented game developer. Canny's not just a game developer though. Canny is a very good developer who has a very wide knowledge base, not just game development, application development, general like C# and DD script on stream. Very worth checking out if you like good energetic development and a really nice place to hang out for a stream. I'm not talking about going monolith. It's not going monolith. It's staying where it is. As an application architecture, it's staying where it is. And it will be that hard to do. Is after review, it will be that hard. Just from a design perspective, it will be that hard. So nothing went wrong. Just a review, just a highlight of why it is useful to have other smart developers to talk to when you're building an application. When you are in an echo chamber, all your and it's why I stream, right? It's why I encourage discussion about this stuff and encourage opinions and feedback. Because when you're in an echo chamber, you didn't get clickbaited. When you're in an echo chamber, everything's right unless you validate yourself, but even validation is not necessarily right. So having the chance to go over and review someone else's opinion, not someone else's opinion, someone else's understanding. No, it wasn't an opinion, it was an understanding of that, and realize I'm wrong. My understanding was off. I have changed that understanding. Now what do I change? And I'm not changing it. It's not folly. It's the fact that I have another chance to learn. In the vein of doing what I'm doing on stream, right? I'm not doing it wrong. Now, there was one video that I shared in the Discord where someone does say, "Don't do this," and I'm doing exactly what they're saying don't do. I'm a solo developer building a distributed monolith. Now, I'm going to watch the video afterwards fully. I've skipped through, but generally it's a management problem. There's too much to track. There's too much to manage. So that's all common to good devs, also to everyone else who you get the review from, only from the nerd side of life. Well, just talking to developers and sharing opinions. Now, developers who understand what you're doing, like in this context, Mojo understands what I'm doing. He's working. He's got access to this code. He's looking at the code. He understands the pieces enough to review the differences. And it was a good, solid conversation on that. But it wasn't you're doing it wrong. It was like you could change it to this, but I don't want to change it to this, right? I don't want to do that now. It's too far gone, in my opinion, to change back to that for no benefit other than a deployment benefit. The risk of overlapping concerns, of joining schema, of pulling it all back into a monolith would far outweigh any benefits of, and it would set it back weeks, if not months, in terms of design. The distributed aspect of it would have to change somewhat. There's a lot of things that need to change. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to continue on as it is. If I have to learn some lessons, that's the purpose of doing this. It's not, the purpose was to build an application that I would like to turn into an application one day. And yeah, if I hit a wall because I hit that's why it's difficult, then I'll learn a lesson, right? I've lost nothing unless I spend thousands of dollars deploying it. But even that, it can still work. I know it can work. I mean, I haven't seen module monolith examples that do exactly what I mentioned, but I have. Look, that's the thing. Like so I have reviewed. I see the difference. I see the challenge, and it is, so basically the title of the stream, "Don't do this. It's wrong. It's all wrong," is because there's, and again, if you jump in the Discord, there's links in there. I'm not going to paste them all in chat because there's several links that are worthy of watching and reading. But there's people that advise against doing what I'm doing. But I like it and I enjoy it, and I'm enjoying building this application. So for those new to the stream, the application is this. It is distributed. Again, it's just different opinions on different approaches, and it's, yeah. Maybe mine's the hybrid. Mine's maybe not micros, because these are not microservices. There's no way these are microservices. With what they do, there's no way they're microservices. No one's going to convince me they are. So, it's easy to say don't do this. It's easy to say you're wrong, but the reality is, sometimes experience is, is what you need. And in this case, I will say that my tenets of you should be comfortable with the code you're writing. You should understand it. You should be able to change it. You should be able to maintain it. Matters above all other things, right? My HCI lecturer once said something good. Programmers make things for people, and therein lies the problem. We aren't people ourselves. Programmers are the 1% of people who are logical enough to become programmers. We understand interfaces, even if they're bad, because of how we see information. I don't, in this design, I don't see anything bad. I don't see any problems at this point. My point is, if I'm looking at other people's opinions of what applications should be, this doesn't fit in their picture of good design or good ideas from a design perspective. What is this application for? Notes. By the way, hello. Bedzio, hello. Welcome in. This application is not for notes. This application is a little bit bigger than that. It's a application for project planning and management. We can add, so think Jira. If you've used Jira, think Jira, but the parts that I don't like about Jira. Yeah, this one. Oh, the app. Sorry, my apologies. This is Obsidian. I use Obsidian for this is Excalibur dumped in embedded in Obsidian. So I'm using Obsidian because I can do all the notes, all the diagrams, and everything else in here. So, and this is all committed to a repo as well. So Mojo and I can share it. There you go. Nice. Avalonis TV, welcome in. How you doing? So yeah, I'm not changing anything. The reason for the title of the stream is because I am considering what it means to not changing it. I'm genuinely trying to reflect and I'm trying to share that experience. I was in a mood of not streaming today because after I'd reviewed it and thought about it all night, I've weighed up all these things and I'm like, do I really want to stream? I'm not really in the mood for it. But then I realized that part of what I'm streaming is the experience that I'm going through. It's not just about the writing the code. It's the thoughts and the opinions that come with building the software. That's what I'm streaming. So it would be disingenuous to not do that. Yeah. Though it's not very detailed on how classes attach to subclasses or say functs or vars, so there's room for improvement. But the fact that you wrote that is better than 9% of people do programming, in my opinion. DDD first time, a bit boilerplate, but it's fun to learn something new. DDD, so I have the concepts in here because I'm trying to keep aligned to clean architecture of domain. Pipelines is not a good example of this. So you will see the word domain, you will see entities, and these entities are, for the most part, aggregates. You won't hear me say I'm doing DDD because I personally feel that DDD requires a really sound understanding of a domain. And a lot of what I'm doing here is exploring my domain, right? So as far as attachments, subclasses, etc., the purpose of this is not to share every single aspect, right? Now, Mojo and I are working on the side on this and other pieces of this, and that's where those diagrams come in, Matt. So my intention is, and we kind of are working on our documentation standards. So when you're working as a solo developer, you don't need a lot of things because you don't have to often describe them. I'm not working in a development. I'm not working in a company here. I'm not doing this fully professionally. Yes, this is built in a way that I would really build an application. But I have a different demand as a solo developer. Now I've asked Mojo to help me with some of this stuff. And Mojo is not working on Liquid Sky directly. Mojo is working on the back end, the management systems piece of it, because then we can work on this, we can approach these things. And now when you have another developer involved, you have to change the way you communicate. Because I can't just go, oh, well, it's that thing over there. The level of understanding is different. The level of experience with the software is different. The level of everything. So that's when those sorts of diagrams come in handy. So those will appear and we will share some of them just by virtue of talking about them on stream, but they're not directly for consumption. This application is not open source, but there are components of it that are open source. um, yeah, grasping some of the DVD capabilities is great, but you don't necessarily. Yeah, um, and I'd love to develop something using the patterns and the ideas that Eric Evans laid out and Von Vernon refined and those books. But I feel that understanding the domain comes first for me. And if it evolves, that's again one of the things I do. I am happy to change any component of this system. I'm happy to rip it out and move it somewhere else. I'm happy to refactor it and change it. And if you go back, there's a lot of videos on YouTube. Every stream has been uploaded to YouTube because I stream on YouTube at the same time. But there's streams of me just literally gutting the application. It didn't initially start off in a clean architecture style. I decided to do that to try and align so people could relate more. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I'd be interested to see uh, how you diagram. We've been getting using Mermaid more and more. Mermaid using sequence diagrams a little bit more to try and help describe some of the flows. We do have a few discussing auth, etc. So we are building some of the stuff out, but it's just not. Uh, yeah. So anyway, I was going to do something today. This this has kind of derailed me a little bit more than I intended, so I do apologize. But you know that is what this does to you. So we now have one sprint. That's that. If we complete that, that'll end and go away. Next one line. So we have some changes to commit. All this was UI. Break swim lanes out. Yeah, it's all good. Gotcha. Yeah. So devs don't need much documentation if they're good at understanding the handwriting, but for others, it's more necessary to have understood the shared language. Yeah. One concept that everyone should take from DDD is, or one phrase is the ubiquitous language. If you're working in a system, no matter whether you're doing full DDD or not, it is very important to make sure that you all understand what you are talking about. Making sure. So one of the examples of that is, well, there's two examples of where it's confusing and where it's necessary. So we have tasks, right? These are termed as tasks. These are tasks. Now you create tasks, and our module is tasks, which is a confusion, which we are going to address at some point because it's technically we can't think of a better word than, or I can't think of a better word than execution, because it's the tasks and the sprints live together because they are related to doing the work. But task is also a concept in the language. Don't forget to use a quote in your lifetime, but yeah. So task is a concept in C# or in framework, rather, in .NET framework, right? I did not shy away from using the word task to describe the thing I'm talking about. So my entity is task, which means that I end up with conflicts and I have to explicitly namespace. But I'm not shying away from that because it's referred to as task in the front end. It's the thing that I decided. And yes, it does cause some confusion. It can cause some challenges developing, but it's better to refer to that as task, because then when we're using the word task, we don't misunderstand in the context of the UI. The flip of that is view. View is a very overloaded concept because it just needs some better structuring. Now, that's not a domain concept. That is um, the view is literally the things we use to display, but it's not actually the display. The display is the Angular client that's actually in a different project. Um, the view is the GraphQL database, the GraphQL aspect. But it's blurry. And if you say in the view, well, we have views in the view, it's a really overloaded term that makes it more confusing. So ubiquitous language is definitely a concept that you really do want to follow, no matter whether you're doing DDD or not. Making sure that the customers are talking about the same thing the developers are. If you've got a software base that has, some abstraction of a concept in its code base, and then you refer to it as something completely different on the front end because that's the way the customers talk about it, that's going to make things more nightmarish. So the sooner you can, the better. Align the software. And it's not necessarily align the UI to the DB or the DB to the UI. It's more make sure that the concepts you're talking about are the same, and it will make conversations. So let's say that I backtrack and these become stories. And we call these stories. And the user creates a story and the user does whatever, right? I don't change the software now. And this is all tasks. If you go if you're looking at the front end, you're a new developer, you're coming along, and then say, oh, it's this story. And you look at the code, you don't find story because you don't talk about stories in the code. You talk about tasks. Everything's a task. It makes it that bit harder to understand. Yeah, it's very important that you should understand your own code, but as well as communicating that concept is a very useful thing. So if your code does not represent or does not use the same terminology as the front end, as the thing that the customers use, you should consider aligning it. And that's ubiquitous languages, making sure that there is a language that all people are on board with and understand and can use the right terms at the right times. If you find yourself getting confused, it's a measure. It's an indicator to you that you should probably consider rethinking that. And view is definitely one of those areas. And tasks as a module to this application is not the right name. This is a bad name because if you're looking for sprints, where's sprints? Oh, sprints are in the task domain, but task is a concept. So if you have to search and you have to understand the quirks, that's a hard code base to work in. Yeah. Yeah. So if you have to, as you put, if you have to do a bit of archaeology or spelunking to find how a concept on the UI, because as a new developer going into a system, you're often seeing the front end first, and the back end is, oh well, that's that thing, um, yeah, that's that thing, and you're like, what? I don't, where's that? And you've got to go, spelunking through the code to find out, do a bit of an archaeology, unearth past bad decisions. You're going to be it makes everyone's life more difficult, and it makes the risk of introducing bugs that much higher because your understanding might not be quite right. Breakout component, introduce task detail, breakout swim lanes as component to allow detail detail panel clear sprint on clear detail, change sprint. Yeah. So one thing I've found in doing this application is that the bigger the application's got, the more work it's given me to do and the more drive I have for completing it. I don't think I've ever, well, no, I know I've never taken a personal project, a side project as far as this application, but it feels fun. I enjoy working in this code base. And it's part of the reason why I've evaluated it. I don't want to change things because yes, it would make it more manageable from a deployment perspective. It would make it more cost effective. But yeah, I enjoy working in it. So yeah, yeah. Okay. Task detail on Sprint board is there in its rough form. Detail on Sprint board card. So as a developer, when looking at the Sprint board, so we're missing the requirement. So we're gonna I use my own custom library for JS. I move fast in it because I find I understand it and it feels clean. I default to it unless there's a more appropriate option than I prototype in it. Yeah, I mean, if you're working on your personal stuff, it doesn't matter, right? If you're working in a business, building pieces custom to the business is risky because you have to consider the onboarding aspect. You have to consider how long does it take for someone else to get up to speed with those decisions. It's much more effective to have libraries and tools that are consistent across industries because people are more likely to come in and if they're not having to struggle learning the thing, they can get on with doing the work, right? But if you're working on your own stuff, you can do whatever you like. I will say now with review, this application, as easy as it is for me, is not easy to bring someone else onto because especially if they are not aware of most of the technologies, it's not. It's allowed me to reflect. Yeah, yeah. Hi, Fosnell. Every library started by someone that thought they could do better. Yeah, sometimes it's I got caught in a recursive loop of while years experience less than 2 seat work. So I know my code well. Yeah, Mr. Horn. Good day. How you doing? I I now I'm on the other end of the spectrum of I've got experience, but now the experience doesn't necessarily fit in certain jobs. I'm also done entertainment work by day and just coding daily because I'm an addict. Eh? It's good to love what you do. That's awesome. Okay. We're paying to maintain, so now I tried to find something. Full freedom to grow in every direction, but I'm poor. Yeah, it won't always be that way. Keep on building. My experience points to that most libs will be paying to maintain. if you so as part of this project, there are for those that aren't aware, there are 2 libraries that are open sourced. There are so far, and there will be more. And the reason they exist is because they solve a problem that maybe is not a problem. Now I'm reflecting more. But whatever. Um, I'm in that sort of mood, so this is useful. I don't know where my own yeah, there we go. So the Kafka extensions is a library around Kafka producers and consumers. It is built to provide easy configuration and setup of Kafka. Also, it provides an outbox design for Kafka, so you can, when you hook your application up, you can add an outbox, and then, and I believe this version has, yeah, MongoDB and SQL Server implemented, so you can choose the different, yeah, it's right there in the documentation. In-memory outbox for testing. An outbox is a way of creating some resiliency. If Kafka's unavailable for whatever reason, your application piece doesn't fail to dispatch the message because it goes to the outbox. Just the service in the background that runs does that. So Kafka extensions is one, and then this one is probably mediator outbox. So the way this application works is when it publishes events, domain events internally, it does outbox them as well. You can add a mediator outbox, and it will process them. So it's a little disconnected, but it does mean that mediator that resilience is there. So a few libraries that do make it custom, but they're open source. Another thing I really don't want to do these days, maintain clusters. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We haven't really done very much today, have we? So, although we have talked a lot, so that is useful. It's why the stream is the way it is. So like I said, I did have a plan on what comes next. As the application grows, there is way more to do. So that's completed. So that now will disappear from there, but won't disappear from there. So that's a fun thing. I think I want to start other challenges. I'm in 2 minds. There's a few things we need to do around the planning items. So this description is kind of useful, but it's not really stunning. So there's 2 areas I want to introduce here, and this is after a discussion a while ago with Dota, and I think it's useful. So when you're working on software, understanding why you're working in software, coming back around to that ubiquitous language concept, coming back around to the interaction with the customer side of it, it's useful to understand why you're doing something. Like, what does this actually represent as a business value? So adding the concept of that onto this planning item is going to be useful, right? So it's kind of the goal, the desire. Why are you doing this? What is the purpose of this piece? And then the second part is priority. Like, priority, I don't quite have a good idea of how I want to represent that yet. I don't think it's just a simple drop down. It's not just a status, etc. I don't know how to indicate that, but yeah, putting priority on that. These are things that I want to do. So that's why they're for review next month, right? Developer visibility of planning. When we do a planning item, if we say it's ready for planning, right now the developer has no concept of what that means. So how does the development team know, oh, by the way, this planning item is available for you to review and you should go and take a look? And it's kind of what these associated projects are meant to do. My goal, my thought is when I introduce the concept of groups, that's the first step towards being able to kind of identify uh, teams. Teams are made up of developers. Teams can have projects they're associated with. So if we do visibility planning, then it would be basically for all teams where, because the product manager is going to determine like, oh, these are the projects that actually are associated with this thing. Those teams would get notified, hey, by the way, there's something for you to look at. So that's a much more wide thing. The concept of dependency as well is another challenge. So the way this system works is we add a planning item. The planning item is not really meant to be the story, but it is the closest thing to a Jira story. The goal here is to keep this out of the backlog, right? Until we know what this is, until we know what this is it not better to keep it away from the development side and say, this is actually work that we want to do that we haven't, that we either have fully planned but have no availability for, or that we have not planned and we need to get planned, right? So if you if you're like me and you've worked in Jira a few times and you've seen that massive backlog because people are like, oh, let's just add it to Jira, let's just add it to Jira, let's just add it to Jira, and it sits there for goodness knows how long, years in some cases, and no one ever addresses it. So the planning item is meant to do that. It's meant to disconnect that. And so, yes. Um, um, what is this? This is, I needed to, it sits there until we switch the planning tool for something else. But it sits in the right place is my point. Yeah. Um, sorry. Finished another blog post yesterday. Nice. Are the blog posts in English? Do you share the blog posts, or they're not for public consumption? They're interesting things. I assume you would share them if you okay. Sorry, my brother is messaging me at the same time, and the blablabla of WhatsApp distracts me. Not very good at alerts. Ah, nice, nice. That's cool. Um, yeah. Oh, by the way, I am talking of blog posts. I'm not going to make blog posts because that would be, I don't even know how to write this up, but I am going to consider planning a series of videos on, at the very least, getting from the API endpoints through to publishing the domain events and how I use them in this application to relay things. So I'm trying to think about a good example that's not Liquid Sky on that. Dependency. Task dependencies. As a developer, when creating tasks, as there are dependencies, other tasks having been done, taken. It is useful to represent so the goal, allow developers to be able to select dependent task. I always put A's in there. Why do I always put A's in there? 10, no, 11/01/2024. Is that a priority? I don't think that is a priority, actually. I'm going to move that back to Thanksgiving time. Jeffrey Winkle. Assign projects. Story. Ironically, it's called Story because that's what it was originally going to be called. Okay. So task dependencies is there. What I'm trying to consider is, again, like I said, I want to move to the point where we can deploy this. So it might be deploying this is the right tool to do it. I'm going to deploy Liquid Sky to development to staging. As a user of Liquid Sky, in order to move toward being able to produce. Hey, Yukiduki. I'm not an expert, but I think this is a coding stream. It is. How you doing? Unless that was a why aren't you coding? Deploy the application. We need to be able to, we need to build all the, I'm on campus right now watching in between my classes. Got an algorithm class in 30 minutes. Nice, nice. We're going to set the goal of this by next week. Assigned to Jeffrey Winkle. So, yeah, coding is ideal. First year software engineering is easier than I thought it would be. Better enjoy it before my second year. Second year might be as easy. Depends on how strong you are on the concepts, I suppose. Yeah, coding. So what I've got to decide here is, do I add more features or will this work as it is? Right. That's what I'm kind of deciding right now. So let's go IAC, deploy Liquid Sky to staging. So requirements. This is gonna be fun. The requirement of this is can see Liquid Sky on. All right, need to do something. Is it right? Can see Liquid Sky on site. I should be able to navigate to liquidsky.software and see the login page. Okay. Can add. I can register a new tenant. I should be able to sign up to Liquid Sky. So, to the point, yes, I would love to say today is a development stream. It is about the development, and I'm more than happy to talk about the software. But also, I need to plan, and part of developing the software is the planning. So it's kind of it goes in hand with the software itself. So I do apologize if I should be coding and people are expecting that. So you're more than welcome to say that if that is something that is. I should be able to sign up to Liquid Sky as a new user. After signing up, I should receive an email, the confirmation link. Clicking the confirmation link. So let's make this. I think I should be presented with a. So the reason why this is worth deploying now, and again, there's a lot of technical pieces coming into this requirement that the in a normal product might not be there, is because this process needs a bit of setting up. I should be presented with a chance to change password. Mojo and I have also discovered / identified that there is some weaknesses with the sign-on process, but the changes to make it more Auth0 flow are a little too extensive at this point that it's probably worth. No. It's not lap time, buddy. No. Hello, my friend. Hello, my friend. Hello. Do you think it's up? Is it up time for you? Is it? Are we getting up? Are we? Is that what we're doing? We're getting up. Come on. Get your big butt up. There you go. Okay. It's Loki time. Low key. Hello. Okay. You gotta sit still. No, you can't be messing around. Okay. The password then should be able to log in. So some of this is configuring, right? As a can create projects. As a yes, I have a headless dog. He's quite an anomaly. He'll be a hit on Halloween. Hello, bud. You've got a head. I know. I know you've got a head. I didn't take it. I promise. Okay. What are we doing? You gonna type for me? No, you're gonna put your head in the most awkward position possible. That typing is next to impossible. Hello, my friend. Hello, my friend. You're good. What are you doing? There's no food. I promise there's no food. Okay. As a tenant administrator. So we don't have the concept of he's actually put his paw over my hand because I was typing and it was bugging him. This is my keyboard. I'm either going to put it on you and use you as a desk, or are you going to let me type? I don't need my hands clean, bud. Come on. As a tenant administrator, permissions is something we need to discuss as well. So this first deployment is going to be a very rough deployment. I should be able to add a project. Project. I mean, realistically, oh, I'm sorry. Was it inconvenient? You a headless dog? No, you're not a headless dog. If you look over there, look over it. What's this? What's this? What's this? Yes. Buddy, what? Right now he's a desk dog. Get down. Come on, get down. Come here. Do you want a cookie? Do you want a cookie? You want a snack? Come here. There you go. There you go. Good boy. There you go. No, that's Taylor's. Taylor gets snack as well. No. We've knocked that over twice in the last couple of days. Yes. Nice. Okay. We need to have a conversation, bud. Okay. Can create data. No, no, no. The microphone is not for licking. Don't make me pay for another microphone as well. I lost my gaming PC yesterday. I went to turn it on and it went bloop. and would no longer turn on. So after I just bought stuff to make sure I could stream off the gaming PC as well. So I spent $200 on key light and camera for the gaming PC, so I could set that up because it's inconvenient to kind of set up for everything in one place. And I went to turn the gaming PC on, and it went bloop. So I'm hoping, at the very worst, it's a motherboard. Um, no, too messy. I got separate PCs. It's an entirely separate desk for gaming. Um, I have a self control problem, so having a dev PC independent of a gaming PC is a necessity for me, so that I can focus on dev and not game. Because yeah, um, as a tenant administrator, I should be able to use the application appropriately. Yeah, my hope too, but we'll see. Hey, Loke, you're going to get yourself kicked out. You good? Come, ease you up. Come, get out of it. Good boy. He's not a lapdog. That's well, he is a lapdog, but he's not the size of a lapdog, which is yeah. Well, you like a big chocolate cake, shall I eat you? um, so one other thing that I do want to add in here is so not that I don't trust those in the stream, but I want to limit the availability of the application. So being given, I'm not arrogant enough to believe that everyone wants to just jump in and test, right? But there are people that I want to make sure do the initial testing before the applications, because things like permissions aren't in place, right? Things like limits on users aren't in place. There's no feature flags enabled for certain things. So it does make the entire software difficult. Now, this will be hosted on my personal machine, so it will only be up for as long as the application, as the server's turned on. But it will be publicly available. So I do need to consider some way of gating that. Um, which that's a challenge when you're writing software and you want to extend it for customers or you want to limit it to customers. You've got to put in special. You don't want to work in software, and I can say this from experience, that is heavily customized for different use cases, or different customers, etc. So um, if you see if customer in your code, or you see entire tables dedicated to certain customers or whatever, it's normally an indicator you're going to have some challenges, either from a logic perspective or from a just a regression perspective, because sometimes they have different behaviors or whatever in the application. Um, that being said, where I'm going there is I need to consider a system that allows me to say, okay, give me something that I can create an invite link, or you have to follow the invite link to be given that. So then I would contact people independently and give them the invite link so they could follow through to get to Liquid Sky. And if you don't go through with an invite link, you don't get there. I don't know. So that might be a consideration here. You okay, Loki? Let's get actually boom doing this. Let's go back here. Let's get that code merged. Okay, so let's go and review that. So the code for this was simple. We added a few more components. We added components so we could break things down a little bit more. Added a comment there. Added a title to that screen. This CSS was what was missing yesterday. I realized after stream it was actually localized CSS. It just needed to be moved to swim lanes. So the sprint board now has swim lanes and details, and pads out correctly. The sprint board component references that. There's the CSS for it. There's the swim lanes component. So again, these are components that the cards inside are done. The swim lanes are dealt with at the swim lane component level. So the display of the swim lanes is relatively simple. The component again defines the swim lanes. These task statuses still bug me, but they're okay for now. And just deals with the drop. From the task detail perspective, it's just literally showing the title and description. There's no more information to really show there, although I do believe that requirement probably should be in there, but we'll come back around to that afterwards. Again, we're getting to the point where we're starting to use the application, so it's going to show its weaknesses. But not everything. The pitfall I need to avoid falling into is as soon as I see something that isn't working correctly, go off and change that thing and make it work the way I want it to work. I've got to stop myself from doing that because in reality, if you're in a business, the worst thing you can do is react to everything you think is wrong and change it immediately. You have to give yourself time to consider it. You have to give yourself time to think about it. And also, you have to make sure that it's the right thing to do for the application. Because just because something doesn't feel right for me doesn't mean it's not going to be right for a customer, or my solution is going to be right for a customer. So if I start introducing things like that randomly, it makes it harder. So everything I do, I have to plan. I have to say, okay, well, rather than just react and say, oh, I need to add that thing. Now, in this case, I've missed a requirement. This story is not incomplete. The functionality of the detail is workable, but the likelihood is I need to go back and add that requirement display because it's in the regular card. It's just not in that one. So delete the branch, check out development, stop running. Sorry, did the wrong thing. Look to the wrong thing there. Okay, let's pull that. So let's pull development because it's merged now. Yeah, I should not have looked. Distraction. Task detail on sprint board can now get deleted as a branch. Okay. And again, if you're new to the stream, if you're wondering what the heck I'm doing, you're more than welcome to ask. I'm happy to show the code. I'm happy to talk about the code. Right this second, the coding is secondary on this particular stream purely because I need to get to the point where we are planning things properly. As the application has grown, as I've got to this point now, every step I take forward, I realize there's 20 different steps I could take, and it just keeps expanding. The more we build, the more things there are to build, and this is why that backlog would not be a good idea, right? Because the backlog of tasks isn't what I need. What I need is a backlog of ideas that I can verify, validate, and correctly task out and build, and that's that's exactly the purpose of the application. So, oh, I'm sorry. Is it inconvenient for you that I'm talking at the same time? So, so the goal will be, and as you know, as I mentioned, Mojo is assisting in this project and has a say. So the goal will be to kind of do a planning session off stream, come up with a list of things that need to be done, identify the tasks, and design those things out as well as we can, to then be able to say, okay, now the application is going to look like this. There you go, bud. You're okay. But yeah, if you have questions, you know, um, yeah, and I would highly recommend checking out the Discord if you are around and you are interested. Um, Seems we've started a bit of a discussion there, and I've shared the links for the things that say, you know, I'm wrong, um, and again, you know, part of this stream is identifying, you know, this is reality, right? I'm building an application. I've made a set of choices. Those choices may hold me to a problem later on, but that is software development. You don't always have all the answers in front of you, and sometimes you build the thing you know at the time, and you build it to the best of your ability, and sometimes it needs to change, and um, that is how legacy software happens, right? It gets to the point where it needs to be changed, which is a good problem to have. Um, and I'm kind of ashamed I didn't kind of I didn't I read that 4 times before it dawned on me what you were saying. I said about backlog. I'm terrible. So okay, so this is a different task. This is not to do with Liquid Sky, so this is fine. Provide ability to assign groups. We're going to move that back a week. And the reason being that I think that it's worthwhile deploying the application now at this point. So the application can be deployed, and if it works, we can use the application to plan, right? So it's more valuable to do that. Why is that not? Is that just taking its sweet time? Or is the API not up yet? Let's move that out to next week. There you go. It's not. Okay. So deploy Liquid Sky. So I should be able to navigate to liquidsky.software and see the login page. I know that you don't go for punishment of the app right now, but at some point we need to talk about margins and paddings of your UI. Because inconsistency drives me crazy. I tell you what, if you can do a UX and UI makeover, you can do it. It's not about polishing. I want to replace the entire thing, so I'm not messing around with tweaking margins and stuff like that. So if you can put me in touch with someone who is very good at UX and UI, who can design the application and all the workflows the right way, because obviously this isn't the right way. There's a lot to be done here, and that I could continue to work with. I will happily work with them, but otherwise, I'm not screwing around with. I know the theory. Also, you can do a UX and UI makeover. You can design the entire application for me. You're okay, buddy. You're okay, my friend. You happy there? Little to no CSS. So, but I'm not. I get it. I don't like it. Um, that's, um, but yeah, I'm not messing around with that because it's just it. it's just a rabbit hole I don't want to go down because it just will drive me crazy. And what will happen is if you start messing me around with, we need to focus on margins and padding, etc. You're gonna see me start to yawn, and then I'm gonna like, okay, I'm done now, bye, and shut the stream down because I'll just get very bored because it's just experimentation. I don't like playing with it, so I'm deliberately not doing that. So as the application grows, the features grow, I'm gonna have to figure things, put things in there. But I do want to, I want to find someone who can do a UX and UI makeover. So I have actually started reaching. I wanted to start reaching out to people like on Fiverr because I cannot afford the thousands and thousands of dollars that it would cost to actually have a full application makeover done. But I've started to reach out to see if there's people I could work with, if they would do like one screen of how would they do because again, it's not just about the colors and the icons and the images. It's about the entire thing. It's the flow. Does this work right? Does it is it constructively correct? Is it logically correct, etc. From a just a usability perspective? And I think there's enough in here right now to be able to work off of, and try and find someone who can, so I can learn more about what questions I need to ask and what things I need to ask for, and work with someone to do something. Also, a lot of these applications, by the way, you do not find dark mode in by default. They are an afterthought. And that will come with its own risks from a streaming perspective, because if I start streaming and it's in light mode, people will turn off. Yeah. So let's add a task. Deploy client application to KS. Deploy the client, build the client, deploy to, so this comes with a task unto itself. This is kind of the dependency thing, but we're going to add it all in here, right? So construct KS instance, create IAC project, repo. This isn't an app for developers. I am knowing my audience. This application is not for developers. This application is for product. It's to help developers get to what they need, right? And yeah, got to remember that, right? Know your audience. Create AIC project. This app will replace PMs. But yeah, we got to the point is it's a fine line, because if I go and put this in front of a UI UX expert and they're like, light mode is the best way of doing this because from an informational perspective it's the right way, and I start developing that on stream, people are going to be like, it's in light mode, what are you doing? And I'm going to end up pretty much every stream having to explain, yeah, this is why. So that's going to be a challenge. But if you look around, every app that does this sort of stuff does not start with dark mode. So, yeah. But I don't know that conversation yet. I haven't had the conversation. It's part of why I want to find a UI UX person. And again, UX is a very big part of it. It's not just about the way it looks. It's about the way it behaves and the flows and the logical things. Like the tasks is obviously not right? The task needs more work in terms of visibility as we're planning this out. Is this the right workflow? Probably not. Create IAC project, deploy, build, and deploy client to KS, configure proxy, configure DNS. Yeah, absolutely. I've understood that since day one, but it's why this is functional, not good. Morning, Napalm. How you doing? Uh, so we need, that's a separate task. Configure, develop, liquid sky.software, configure proxy, configure DNS, verify can access landing page. So the landing page will deploy without the database and everything being up. Make sure we read the browser settings. I hate when sites don't use my default settings. Yeah. 2 to 3 months of work tossed yesterday, so that was fun. So fun fact, Napalm. The other year, I started working on a project to build a CMS management platform around what's it called? What's the CMS called that we've talked about, Mojo? Whatever it is. So we started building this. We started building a site in Laravel, allowing users to log in, configure things, and it would then interact. Strapi, that's it. So it was a management tool around Strapi. It would communicate with Kubernetes. It would spool instances up. It would do all sorts of stuff. And we spent a year developing it. And right as we got to the point where it was ready to release, they were like, "We're selling that department, and we're not using that tool anymore." So it just got scrapped. So we spent a year. I mean, I got some Kubernetes education in there, but it was a year of work that was just completely written off for two of us. And I've gone through that multiple times over the years. And it's not just about being paid; it's the amount of effort you put into it. What you've got to do is, reflect on what you learned, what were the challenges, what did you overcome, how did you, um, you know, did you learn anything new along the way? It's not just about being paid; it's about how did you grow. And I think that's an important thing to do from every project, from every application, from every business you work in. Get something from it other than just being money, and realize that sometimes the business doesn't know what they want. Um, that's why I told my boss I'm used to having my soul crushed, and I said, let me put my HR out and say it was a good learning opportunity. It shouldn't be soul crushing. It's not great when you see a project go that way, but it is, you know, to me, it's an opportunity to understand, how do I ask better questions of the business? How do I, help them validate the requirements? Because if they're wasting 2 to 3 months of your time, maybe there was a missed question somewhere. Maybe there was something there as well. So it's an opportunity to learn more about how the business works as well. So, um, yeah. But at this point, I'm not crushed over anything ending. There you go. So the lesson is the lesson. You know, did you say the right things? Were you able to back up the statements? Was it a communication problem? Was it a listening problem from them, and therefore there was nothing you could do? Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So as an FYI, over the next couple of days on the stream, I'm going to start looking at Pulumi more. I'm going to try and I've got a lot of hardware to figure out these next couple of days, including trying to fix my PC, right? Hopefully it's a power supply or something's gone, but the power turns on, which is not a good sign. It just doesn't initialize. So I'm thinking the motherboard died. Hopefully not the CPU. But I'm going to have to try and learn Pulumi. I don't like doing that sort of stuff on the stream. I actually dislike doing it with a passion on stream, because it is just a struggle, and I don't like doing that too much. But yeah, CMOS hopefully. Yeah, we'll see. We'll reset afterwards. But I do have the two little AMD machines that I do know can run Kubernetes. I do know they can run this platform because I've run stuff on them before. The two little AMD mini PCs that I have, a 5800 HX and a 6900 HX. So they're more than capable. They've got headroom. So the next couple of days are going to be dedicated to deployment. I think the application is at a point where we can do the planning. We can do the tasks, deploy Liquid Sky to staging. So we can go over here. We can say deployment. And this starts at 10:31 2024. 0700 hours. Oh, sorry, dog. 0700 hours. And finishes on 11 Loki on 6 2024 at 0900 hours. I love you, Mr. Muffin, but you are annoying me. So can we take a moment to say thanks to JetBrains for opening Rider to hobbyist use? Absolutely. That is a good idea. Rider being free for hobbyist is awesome because it is a really great tool. There's a lot of functionality in there. I don't think it's limited either, so I don't think there's any like plugin limits or anything like that. Yeah. You are annoying me. You are too warm. I had a jacket on, but now you're a jacket. Nom nom nom. Okay, deployment. My apologies for smushing Loki. Let's go over here. What are you doing, dog? Don't eat your dog. Deployment. Deployment. Let's move into deployment. Okay. No. Eventual consistency is fun. What are you doing? So yeah, we'll build out these tasks. This will be the first part. So what I'm thinking is we focus on deploying the website first. So we don't worry about the entire distributed system because there's a whole lot of other stuff that comes there. Tomorrow we start focusing on. So I'm going to try and install the freshen up the Kubernetes instance today. Make sure that's available. That was its own challenge last time. So I've got that box. So we'll get the. You've got your foot in my pocket. That's going to be really bad. We'll get that working. And then, so I apologize if that's not really good from a coding perspective, but it is something that is infrastructure as code is, I think, the right way to do this application. I don't think, manual deployment. This is Loki. Loki is a pain. Say hello. Sit. 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 Loki. Sit. 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 There you go. Good boy. It's the Loki show. Move aside. Yeah. My wife thinks it's hilarious that he does this to me. That he's learned that he can do that. So, okay. No, I need to see. I did really bad in terms of viewership for application development. I'm doing the wrong things. I need to be building TypeScript frameworks and stuff. Yeah, so we'll start this tomorrow. Pulumi, the whole 9 yards. We'll go and try and do that. Loki. Topic: Dog shows his food provider doing programming things. Uh, okay. So we're gonna raid over to someone I haven't raided in a while today. So I don't know if you've seen this streamer. You may have done. He's trying to make the camera not pick you up, but you've been voted off the show. Hello? 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 I got raided. Got raided. Dog, stream. Stream. Come on, dude. Hello? Hello? Okay. There you go. Oh, hello. Do you want to come? I'll tell you what, you haven't been on the street before. This is Taylor. Taylor's a licky one. So Taylor is yes. That's her battering the microphone with her tail. So yes, this is Taylor. Hello, little one. She's a little small and Loki. But he's a licky one. No. Come on. Come on. So anyway. We're going to go raid Hello Comics, assuming I haven't missed his stream. He's building. He's his game maker, and he's been building this super console kit for ages. But it looks really awesome, and I'd love to play it. I'm going to let these two out, so I'm going to do a bit of a raid and run. Thank you very much for joining me. It's Wednesday. Don't forget to go, because he won't do it himself very often. Mr. Lion does also stream. Remember that he's also a .NET developer, but really great. Does yeah, one line is streaming his work project, but it's fascinating to see actual real work and real development done, rather than this what is becoming a dog chaos stream. There you go. There you go. Good girl. Okay, we escaped. Okay, we're gonna raid Hello Comics. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to try and do some stuff with Kubernetes and get that ready for tomorrow's stream. And yeah, we'll be back tomorrow. Take care all. Bye.